everybody. Quick update on the ride that I did yesterday. It was just under 2 hours. I had to cut a lot of the footage out. It was not that interesting, let's be honest. But the bike performed really well. A couple of issues I've got to address today, and the first one being this exhaust hanger. I really struggled getting that to fit in the first place because this bar is massive for a bike. What had happened yesterday while I was full throttling down the main road like I shouldn't do is this had slipped down, come off the exhaust at the bottom, and the extra vibrations had caused these bolts to come loose. Luckily enough, I carried a couple tools with me, so I was able to patch it up on the go and get myself home. Now the bike needs a good wash. It's just muddy and cack everywhere. But I got a surprise this morning with the Sunday post. We're getting an upgrade. This is only 1.5 litre tank, which it does all right. I haven't run out yet. Nearly 2 hours yesterday. Let's see if we can see in there. Look at that. There's still probably maybe 1/2 litre, 3/4 of a litre of fuel in there. So I went, what was it, I think just over 37, 38 kilometres yesterday. That wasn't all throttle though. Obviously there's pedalling as well. But still, that's not bad that I was able to get that distance and not run out. But today, post on a Sunday arrived. If there's one good thing to come out of COVID-19, it's parcels on a Sunday. We're upgrading to a 4 litre tank, which, look at that. If I run out of fuel now, I'm just being stupid. Something's going to happen, something's going to break before I use all that fuel. So obviously I'm going to have to drain the fuel that's in there. I've got a little 1/2 litre mixing jug, but I'll be able to pour it straight into that jerry can because that's pre-mixed 2-stroke. Now there's about 2 or 3 litres left in there, I guess. Yeah, I haven't got much of a workspace out here, so it's sitting on the stairs and balancing the bike best I can. So the first thing I noticed was that the mounting of these tanks is a little bit different. It doesn't have these studs welded or most likely soldered in like the normal ones do. It just comes with screws so long, maybe about 2 inches long, and a couple of nuts and washers. That doesn't sound very good, but it's actually very handy because if for whatever reason it's not long enough, it doesn't sit over the bar well enough, you can just go down and buy some longer bolts. I might even have some lying around from the leftovers of the build that I did the first time around. Back when I thought I'd blown that motor up early on, I went and ordered another engine. In the end, it just turned out to be an air leak in the carby, which, as I found out, was a fairly common problem and fairly easy to fix. I had ordered another carby, but that entire kit arrived because I managed to get that from a local company. The carby was coming from China. Nothing I've ordered from China has actually arrived yet, thanks COVID-19. I will say that the shipping's normally pretty quick. From China to Melbourne, it's not that. You might wait a week or two, but not that bad. The other thing I've got to sort out today, before I even think about putting this massive tank on is the chain guard. Now I've left the guard off so far with this build. Easier to keep an eye on the tension. Now it's settled in really, really well. I've had to adjust it only maybe 2 or 3 times. The rag joint as well, I've been checking that, that's nice and tight still. I had a lot of trouble getting this one centered, but it seems to have settled down really well, especially after the few big rides that I've done in it. You know, if it's going to slip off, it's going to happen while I'm going up and down the backyard anyway, so getting this in the right position and getting it nice and tight, you know, give it a good kick and it's not going anywhere basically. More likely to damage the bike doing that, but rule of thumb, give it a kick. If it moves, it's not on not on well enough. What had happened to me yesterday was I was riding along, luckily just pedaling. Unlike the normal bike chain, this one's spinning whether or not the motor's on or off. Obviously that's why we have a clutch. But my loose trouser legs got bound up in there and I came to a screeching halt. So luckily I was only on pedal power, not going that fast either. But let's face it, it doesn't matter if you're going fast or slow. When things bind up and you come to a screeching halt, it's not pretty. I was actually stuck on the bike until I was able to get my other leg over, and yeah, I managed to force the engine backwards to get unstuck. So, now the other thing I have to look at today as well before I go anywhere is this, the $40 action camera mount. Now I tried 2 things. I've currently, and with the video I put up yesterday, I've got the waterproof back on there. I had originally put the, you know, the normal back on there. It's got little vents in there, lets a bit more air and I guess noise sound in. I went for a ride with that to give it a test and it was just rattly and there was a lot of wind noise and it wasn't that fantastic. So with the waterproof case on it, lets less air, less noise. You still get the engine noise and the vibrations, but nothing else, unless, you know, your face is here and you're almost yelling into it. You can't hear anything, even at this volume, and I'm just recording on my phone as well. You wouldn't be able to hear me talking if the camera was in there now. So I've got a couple of ideas. I thought maybe, you know, if I stick a little bit of rubber under there, I've got an old inner tube I've been cutting up to, you know, stick under the tank and try and protect the wires and whatnot. But I think what I'm going to go for is try and sort out the chest mounts. This kit came with straps, but it's not very clear on how it actually fits on, so I'll have a bit of a tinker around with that. I'll be able to figure something out, but it'll be a question of whether or not it's going to be stable or it'll just be flopping about. Yeah, there's not much else to do except get to work and see how we go. Starting with the chain guard before I forget. Now the good thing about ordering a second kit is I've got all these spare parts. There's a spare exhaust that if the other one for whatever reason becomes unusable, I can just pop that on. And I've got an extra chain guard sitting there. I had to lock that one up. You know, I don't have brilliant tools, so that was just tin snips hacking that up there with a bit of rubber, you know, gasket goose sealant, just to try and take the edges off there. So at least this will give me an idea if it's going to fit. That, obviously I still need to take the little nut off the back there. I might have to bend it up a bit, but that's looking like it's going to fit fairly well. It might be a bit too high. I mean, this whole engine is sitting fairly high anyway, But I just could not get it to sit any lower without, you know, either the carby being crushed or the actual engine mounts weren't sitting flush with the bar. Just thinking, it looks oily and greasy and gross, but that's mainly I haven't washed it properly yet. When I got back yesterday, I was a drowned rat. I was soaked through to the skin. I was not in the mood for cleaning a bike. I gave it a quick rub down with a WD-40. But beyond that, nah, it just went under the house and I went in and got myself cleaned up. So hopefully the weather stays nicer for us today. There's a bit of blue sky, but you can't judge that. I mean, I had 2 seasons in one day yesterday. I got completely rained on and then the sun came out and there was blue sky, which that was footage I ended up cutting out from yesterday's video, despite taking the screenshot for the thumbnail. I had to delete my videos too because at the moment I'm only using my phone. I've got limited space. A couple of weeks maybe I'll get a laptop or something so I can actually do some editing properly. But for now, it's all done on the phone. There's like 3 people who ever see these videos anyway, so it's not a big deal. I don't have you know, any audience. Most of these videos are just me for fun, for posterity. Mainly, I'm going to record something if something goes wrong, which it inevitably will. Alright, enough yabbering from me and get to work. Okay, quick update time. Chain guard is on. I just went with the old one because it was already chopped up and fairly easy to bend. These chain guards, yes, it'll keep you safe, but they are only as good as the cable ties that you put on it. Now these kits come with cable ties. They say cable tie it to the back frame. They're designed like that. It's crap. I've got 3 on there at the moment. It's about as many as I can fit. Again, I'm only using cheap and nasty cable ties. It's what I've got on hand. Don't skimp on safety. If you can use better quality ties, use better quality ties. At the very least, go overboard. You can't have too much security. Now, I had my trouser leg wrapped up in there. It's going to be nothing compared to having this come off and get wrapped around in my spokes, get caught up in there. What can I say? Just don't skimp on safety. I can't stress that importantly enough. Alright, back on the topic of things I need to do. One of my biggest concerns has been these cables. Now I've tried to pack underneath here to free them up, but it's not good enough. So today I'm going to try and reroute that brake cable at least. As you see, I've got movement in there, but it's just not good enough to bring me to a stop. So I'm going to run this cable, you know, up underneath here. It's not going to be pretty, but again, you can't be riding these things without good sets of brakes. Yeah, so hopefully freeing up that cable will also give me my rear brakes back, which is about all I need to do now is get on to draining this. I had been tempted just to go for a ride and use up the last of the fuel, but really there's too many little things that need to be done. So yeah, just cut the nonsense, get that fuel drained back into the jerry can, get the new tank on. Also, the hazard of doing all my work like this is I managed to push the bike over, and of course it landed on my mirror. Hello! Snapped clean off. So I'm going to try and dig that piece out and hopefully I can bog it in there or something like that. Some mirrors better than no mirror at all. Can't really see much in that thing. Hello! But if it gives you an extra few seconds warning when a car's coming, sometimes that makes all the difference. But I mean, even with the motor going, you can hear the cars coming before you see them in the mirror anyway. It was a fairly cheap mirror. Alright, now we play the waiting game. You'll notice, you know, they're supposed to be gravity fed, but I am a little worried about, you know, it having to go a little bit uphill before it goes down. But really, as far as it's got a straight line from the filter to the carby, I'm sure I'll be okay. And if I'm running so low on fuel that this is all that's left in here, sorry I'm doing this one-handed because, you know, backyard builds. If the only fuel I've got left is in that little valley down there, then I've got bigger problems. In which case, pedal, pedal, pedal. Which brings me back to the other point. I'm not too worried about the gears being jammed on. That's a relatively comfortable speed just to have the bike set on. It's, you know, it can be a bit hard to pedal off, especially if you're on a hill, but especially when you're going, even with the motor going, you know, if you need to give it a bit of assistance to get up a hill, it's a good ratio to be in. It's not too heavy, but it's not so light. You have it in too low a gear and you'll just freewheel. How are we going? Still trickling. We're almost done by the look of that. Alrighty, update time on the brake line. Failed attempt number 1 donated one of its line sheaths. Now, if that doesn't do the trick for me, I'm out of ideas. Now, it should be fine because I have the throttle cable running underneath the old tank anyway. And obviously that still worked fine. That's what they're designed to do. I won't really know until I get the tank on, which we're in the process of doing now, but I don't even know if I'll get it completed because I haven't sized up the bolts it came with to see if they fit. If not, I'll have to get some longer hardware, but so far so good. Alrighty, there is no way known that this is fitting. Even the brackets, they don't quite fit. Anyway, alrighty, update time. The tank is on. My word, that's huge. The exhaust hanger's as good as I can get it. What else was there? The brakes, nah, look, it didn't work. The tank's just too big. There's no real space to let the cables move. I've got nothing I can use to reroute it because I can't secure the cables on. But look, trial and error, we'll get there in the end. I've got my handy little toolkit for on the go there, just with the basics, so if anything does go wrong I should be able to get something working again. It's taken me a long time to get to here, because there's always something else. Realising some of this rattle is actually coming from the rear brake lever that's not working anyway, so just going to try and tighten it up a little bit from here. Yeah, that's better already. Hopefully that won't be so noisy now. Camera's still taking 10-minute videos. I checked it. It's a feature that I turned off, but it seems to do it automatically anyway. Ow! Pain in the ass. Oh, crap. As I said, I was having trouble with my chain. The bugger just snapped. Luckily, it's the bicycle chain and not the motorcycle chain. A quick update time. On that camera you'll see, or you won't see, but I was riding along and I snapped the chain on this bike, the bicycle side, not the motor side. Now I've managed to replace it. Seems to be alright, except I've got a very, very, very old and nasty like master link on there, because it's all I had on hand. And also, again, with the exhaust popping off, as it's getting dark and I won't have time for another ride, we're going to get some Loctite on there and set it overnight, and hopefully if the weather's nice tomorrow, I'll go for a, fingers crossed, incident-free ride.